Hello everyone, Dividend Enjoyer here, and today I'm going to be doing a stock analysis video of Costco, ticker symbol COST. Costco shares currently trade for $952.52. They're currently up 18.79% in the past year. The market cap of Costco is currently $422.42 billion. The price to earnings ratio is 54.03, which seems like kind of a premium to me. I would expect a lower price to earnings ratio, but I'm going to kind of talk about my opinion on why I think that price to earnings ratio is so high and potentially why I think Costco might be worth a premium. The annual dividend yield is currently 0.55%. So not really that crazy of an annual dividend yield, but they do increase it yearly. And that quarterly dividend amount, of course, 1.31. The 52-week low of Costco, $793.03. The 52-week high for Costco is $1,078.24. So we're definitely closer to the 52-week high than the 52-week low. I remember when I did my analysis of Costco, I believe it was around 920. So I think it was kind of before it ramped up, and now we're kind of back down. It does look like it does have some kind of momentum going upwards, but the reason why I really wanted to talk about Costco is because there are a lot of businesses that I really like the business model. I really like the company individually, but I think that the business is too expensive. And for a while, that was kind of my opinion on American Express. That was my opinion on Salesforce, and I might have been right because now Salesforce has dropped so much from where I had bought it. That had been my opinion with Microsoft when I had bought it and had dipped 10%. Then I exited for 10%, but I could have made even more if I would have held through the earnings. But what I'm trying to say is really, Costco is the type of business that I really want to own. It's the type of business that I think is intrinsically very powerful and valuable. When Americans think of Costco, most of them have some kind of opinion, and most of the time it's positive. I would think that Costco kind of ranks among the kind of brand awareness in terms just in the American psyche, just being such a big company, such a powerful company. I think that it rivals even that of Disney. I think it's really on that level in terms of just creating a wonderful experience and being a company that has just extremely positive values and culture. And I really think that Costco is really an exemplary kind of company and business that I would really like to own for the long term. What this whole rant is about is trying to say that Costco, I think, is a very unique type of business, and it's a type of business that I would really want to own. And I think we really need to have to just talk about the business model of Costco, and that being that you have to have the membership to actually be a Costco shopper. And what that does is it then funds a lot of the other things within Costco that are very advantageous. And I recently read an article by the Wall Street Journal that was very interesting about how because Costco created the Kirkland Signature brand, honestly, maybe the most just intelligent thing that Costco's done is the Kirkland Signature brand, and that could deserve its own video. But really, one thing that I saw that Costco was doing was they were actually shifting the production of a lot of their goods in the region where they're being sold. So they're kind of able to get around tariffs because they control a lot of the means of the actual production of the goods and the sales of the goods. They kind of have a monopoly on some of their Kirkland Signature products because obviously they are the manufacturer of those products. So it seems like Costco is very smart, very cutthroat when it comes to their suppliers. And it really seems like Costco has built a wonderful business that really gives a lot of extra equity to the consumer. And I wanted to kind of break down the financials because I personally would be willing to pay a premium for this business. It's done some very cool things in the past, like the special dividends that they do every couple of years. If you guys didn't know this, when Costco has enough free cash just sitting there that they don't know what to do with, they just pay the shareholders. So last time that was like a $15 dividend, I think. Just a special one-time payment to the shareholders. And I think that this business long-term is going to do very well. So I do think that I will eventually want to bite the bullet and buy this stock. I just don't know if it's time now or later for me, because I really do think that this would be a fabulous addition to my portfolio. It's either going to be this or Walmart stock. But I am definitely more positive and feel stronger positive connections with Costco than I do with Walmart's business model. Kind of with how I feel long term they're going to do. I think that Walmart is uniquely positioned in a very powerful company, but I just like Costco better as a business, and I feel like they're a more positive business, and I think that there's a lot more growth ahead for Costco because I think that they're going to be successful wherever they decide to grow or whatever they decide to do. Analysts are obviously very split on Costco. Currently, 16 rated a buy, 5 rated overweight, and 17 rated a hold, with 1 rating a sell. So analysts are really split between buy and hold. I think that it really depends on what your opinion is and what you are willing to pay in terms of a premium for that Costco branding and for the fact that there really only is one Costco. And that's kind of why it's alluring to me, but I don't think that necessarily means I'm desperate to pull the trigger on it. I want to get a good deal on all the stocks that I'm buying. I don't want to just get a fair deal. I want to be buying when there's some bargains. So I definitely think July would have been a good time. July 31st when it dipped into that 930, I think that might have been decent. I really want to get this stock though when it's at like 850 maybe, but we're going to plug into the DCF model and I'm going to show you kind of what I'm talking about. Average cost of capital, and you're going to see here that it's mostly equity weighted because Costco is 98% market cap compared to their tiny amount of debt of 1.92%, which is another reason why I think this stock is, really very nice looking, because it has very low debt compared to the actual equity weighting that it has, almost no debt. I think the only reason that they have this debt is for a potential tax shield. But I really don't think it's relevant at all or concerning at all, which is very nice to see, because some stocks can have way too much debt on their balance sheet, which is something that I think is a huge negative. Here we have my model for Costco, and we could see here that with a 13% average free cash flow growth rate over the next 9 years and a perpetual growth rate of 2.5% afterwards, the stock would be worth $822.28. Now, I think that there would be some more kind of intrinsic value to the Costco name and to the idea that they could continue to grow at a very high rate into the future. But I do also think that Costco is kind of a mature company. I know that they did raise their membership, so that's probably also going to help their earnings. I really think that getting at this at around 900 is like a very good deal. If we plug in what their average free cash flow growth rate has been, which it's been fluctuating a lot, I'm guessing that's because they've bought back shares or paid off debt or built more stores. But when we have that, we can see that it is a buy and there is 11.59% upside. But when we put in the average revenue growth rate, which I think is more in line, we can see that the stock would only be worth 600. So I think around 850 is where I think it would be a decent deal, but I'd like to get in even lower. I'm not like rushing outside to buy that at 850, but again, there is a premium assigned to the stock, and that's where it gets really tricky because the free cash flow has been higher than the average revenue growth rate, and there have been weird times where they've paid crazy dividends. So this number maybe should be higher. The revenue has been growing pretty steadily, though, which is nice to see. I like 5.63% growth in the revenue on a company with no debt. In the long term, I think that you're still going to do well, even if you buy now at 9.52. I think that, and this is an unprofessional, non-financial advice opinion. I don't know what's going to happen with Costco in the future for sure. But my kind of best educated guess would tell me that Costco will probably do well in the future, and it's going to look cheap in a future multiple perspective. So the price to earnings ratio, if you bought now and then after a year's worth of earnings, is going to look very attractive. So that's just food for thought if you're someone who's a long-term investor, which I am. I think that eventually I'm going to bite the bullet on Costco. I'd just like to get more waste management while I think it's relatively cheap, and some more Apple while I think it's relatively cheap. But this is one that's been on my radar for years now. I've wanted to just hold it, but there's just other stocks that I feel like are more attractive, and I'm not necessarily in love with this sector. I don't necessarily think you're getting like a crazy good deal on Costco right now. So I think it's just better to stay disciplined here and not buy for me. But I definitely think that the stock is worth looking at right now, especially if you're going to hold it for the long term. They've had pretty consistent increases in revenue, which is always good. And I think that the company is, just exemplary in terms of the culture, in terms of what the company is founded on and the values and the idea that they want to create value for the customer. I think it's something that's ingrained into Costco as a whole. And it's a company that I really want to be able to own, but I mean, if we look at this growth rate of 8.31% of the free cash flow, compared to the average revenue growth rate, which is that 8.31%, we can see that, you'd be overpaying for the stock. I think 750 is like a steal. I would be looking at around 750 to 850, actually. I think that would be my range based off of this model. If I could get 850, I would be happy with that and to hold it for the long term. But I'm not necessarily jumping out of my seat to buy Costco here. I don't think it deserves that big of a premium compared to its potential future growth. But I do think that, if you're willing to hold it for at least 1 year, I think you'd probably make some decent money. I mean, you can see the past year it's been up 18.79%. So maybe it's time to own Costco, but I think that it's still too expensive compared to some other opportunities that are there. But I do think that they've built something that is amazing, and eventually I do want to own this stock and own it for the long term. So thank you guys for watching. My final verdict is I think it's a little bit expensive, but if you're wanting to hold it for the long term, I don't think you can go wrong with this business. I think that it's going to retain value pretty well, and I think that it's going to increase going into the future as well. And historically, they've treated their shareholders very well. So long-term good, but a little bit expensive. Thank you guys for watching. Really appreciate it. Please leave a comment.